So in this video, we're going to be setting the background image and the window icon. So if this is the first time that you're starting out with this video series, you can grab the source code from over here at GitHub, Programming Rainbow, Yellow Snow, C SDL2. Okay, grab the source code. We are going to be working with the source code that is in video 1. Since this is video 3, the first video we did the source code for making all the boilerplate and making the window appear. The second video was actually all about this makefile right here. And so for the third video, we are continuing on where we left off in that from the end of the first video with the source code. So you can grab the source code from video 1 folder and put it right into the source code, or just we can just delete this. We can copy that video 1 and just call it SRC or SRC. So I want to talk real quick about the makefile. The makefile that we made in the second video, the last video, we didn't change this source directory. We didn't talk about letting the person override it from the command line. So if we put a question mark there on that one, that means we can point make at different folders. So if we save this, if we want to say run the code that's going to be in this video, we could do something like this. We could say src dir, right? And we can say equal to video 3. And yeah, I know that video 1 has a lowercase v and video 3 has a capital V. I will fix that. But we could say the source directory is video 3, and then we can run make, and we could rebuild it and run it. And we should get what will be at the end of this video. There you go. And if we were to run just, say, video 1, we get what we had at the last video. So it just builds what's in whatever source folder is pointed at. It still builds in the .build directory, and it still outputs the binary to yellow snow. So having that question mark there gives you the ability to do that. Let's talk about the end of video 1. There was in video 1, there is a typo in there, and if you were using the makefile here or watched video 2, you saw the typo already get fixed. But let's cover that just real quick. So in source, in game, down in the main game loop, where we're checking the events that occurred, one of these defaults I accidentally put a E instead of a T at the end of it. Now the normal GCC command doesn't catch that, but or even if we use the make command with release, but if we use just the make command in the default state where it has all the extra warnings and everything turned on, it will actually catch this and tell us about it. But this was in video 1, so if you're just coming in from video 1 or you didn't see that, there is a typo in one of these two defaults right here. So that kind of shows that it is good to be using the makefile that we created. Okay, so that covers the makefile and the issue with that source code. So in this video, we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be loading the background, which we're actually going to be using a rectangle this time, and we will be setting the window border icon, and we will actually see that in practice today. So let's start by talking about the background. We're going to need the image and the rect. So we're going to add them to our game struct here, and it's going to be SDL texture. And I'm going to call that background image. Okay, and this again is going to be managed, so we are going to take care of cleaning this up. This rect, however, is actually just going to be inside of the instance of the game. So even though the game is on the heap, um, we are already managing the game memory. This is just part of it. This is not its own thing. Whereas the background image and all these other three here, the pointers are being handled by the game rect, but the actual memory is somewhere else. So they are also on the heap, but in a different location. So that's why we clean those up. So we'll call this one background, not image, but rect. Okay, and this one is not a pointer. This is just the rect. Okay. And we also, well, so right here, right when we get to, we need to bring in another library because we're going to be loading images. So before we get into game C and start doing what we need to do there, we're going to go to main.h. And right here where we're loading SDL2, we need to load the SDL image module for SDL2 since we're going to be loading PNG images. This was covered in depth in the prior video series. So if you don't know what we're doing here, go back and watch that series. But we are going to need this module, and this is an SDL2 version. SDL image.h. What did I do? There's no H there. Okay, so that's going to give us access to that. And game, that's going to give us that. So in here, let's see, we are going to actually not be loading images in game or in initialize. We're going to make a new set of files, and we're a new module kind of. It's a helper module for game, and we're going to use that for loading all of our different media. So we're going to call that load media. So I'm going to make two files, an H and a C version of load media. Load media.h and load media.c. Okay, and in load media.h, we need to make the include guards. Oops, I accidentally hit the wrong button there. Load media.h, and we need the end if. So right away from here, we are going to be we need two things basically. We need to bring in game because we are going to be dealing with things that are defined in the game. So we're going to bring in game.h, and we're going to prototype our function that the game.c is going to be calling. So include our local game.h, and then we will make our prototype, which is going to return a bool, and it's going to be called game load media. And the reason why it's called that is because this is kind of helping game out. This kind of thing would be, for me, considered in the game module, but I'm pulling it out here because it's going to get large. It's going to be, sorry, struct game right there. Okay, and we can just copy this. We'll save this file here, and we'll go into loadmedia.c, and we need to include loadmedia.h. Media.h, and we need the function. This is basically just going to have one function in it, which is this one. And so this is we're going to be doing the standard we're loading a texture, then we're going to query the texture to get our rectangle. So we will be loading this texture here. we're going to pass in the render, we're going to pass in the file location, and we're going to check to see if this fails. All right. Over here. So the image file that we will be loading, let's go over here, is going to be the background image. So it's an images background. Images background PNG, and this will be game render or G render. And this is going to be the background image. Okay, so we run that and then we check to see if that was, it's already set at null because we're using calloc when we create the game struct, but now we are checking to see if it's still set to null after we ran this function. If it is, then it failed. Background image. And we want to see if it's nothing still. Okay, so let's see. TD error, and let's say error loading texture. And a new line character there. Yeah. So this is an error coming from image module. So I'm going to do the image get error. So we're going to print the image, and then we are going to exit return with true. And that is going to collapse down because anytime one of these functions gets a true return from it, they know that that is errored and they're going to continue collapsing down. I am including image, so I do not need this here. Yeah. And I need the good default, which is false here. And we also need to, since we're going to be using a rectangle with this one, we need to query this texture to get rectangle information. So query texture, we bring the texture, we're passing in the texture, and we do not care about the format or the access, so we're going to null both of those. And we are going to send in a address to the width and the height for our rect. So we'll just grab this real quick. And this is a fail. If it succeeds, it's going to be 0, and if it fails, it's going to be a negative number, I think, or 1 or something. So we can use an if statement. We can just wrap this function in an if statement because of the way that it fails. And let's see here. So texture query, we are going to be querying the texture, the background texture. And we're going to put null and null. And now for the width and the height, we are sending in the rect, right? The W member of the rect, but we need to send in the address. And for this one, same thing, but for the height, and it's writing long for me, but my LSP or will format this when I save it. Okay, so we have the if statement, and so we'll check if it will take care of the failure. Okay, so the querying, checking if it's failed, we are going to, this is a normal SDL error, and we are checking about, or we're erroring from the querying of a texture. I think I spelled that right, yeah, querying texture. So if it's queried the texture and that's failed, it's returning out, and elsewise we have a false, so all is good. And there is our automatically formatted version. So this is what we're going to be using for loading all the media. So this will keep extending down when we load more media later. And we need to call this from game, just like the way we called just like we called initialize. We're going to do the same thing. And we haven't imported this one yet, so it's going to complain first. So right up here, we need to include the local load media. Load media H. So same thing's happening. If this returns true from this, then this is going to return itself from this function as true as well. And the reason why that we are loading these includes in the C file and not the H file is that both of these header files actually include game.h. So both of these header files are kind of working with the game module. So they're including game.h. They need game.h to know that about the game struct. So they're included in their header files, and their C files are including their own header files. So since game.h is here, I cannot put these, I don't need to put them there, but I cannot put these in game.h because then I would have circular dependency. Initialize would be dependent on game.h, and the game.h would be dependent on initialize, and it would be circular. However, I can have game.h included in these, which is fine, but I can include these into the game.c file, which is what I'm doing. And that is not a circular dependency problem. So these two are helping out game, basically the game module. So they kind of have this funny thing going on where they're being included. Okay, so I'm including that. That's going to load the media up for me. Now to display this, I need to use SDL render copy, which is right here, SDL render copy, and this has a value if it fails, but we don't care about it. We're not going to use it. We're going to take in the render, we're going to take in the texture, we're going to use null for the source rectangle, and we're going to use the rectangle that we created for the destination rectangle. So this one, we are using a rectangle in the background. So I'm just going to grab this render copy function right here and put it right between clear and present. That's where everything that we want to draw to the render takes place. Let's see. We need the render first and then the image. Now we got source destination or source rectangle, which is null, and destination rectangle, which is going to be our our rectangle that we just populated. And the reason why we don't need to worry about, we just set the width and the height with the query, but the reason why we don't need to set the x and the y is because x and y were already set to 0 because we used cowlook, and that set everything to 0. So we don't need to set the x and the y to anything. Also, we need to send in the address of this with the ampersand. So that should give us a background image being drawn. Let's try that real quick. And I'm going to just use the rebuild and run. And this is going to give us our strict compiling. So I'll know if I've made any errors. Okay, so right up here, I'm kind of separating them out because this is kind of shutting down resources for the window. This is actually shutting down kind of the whole SDL system. Up here, I'm going to be, separating them out, but here I'll be cleaning up textures or something like that. So SDL, destroy texture, and this will be the background. And I will set it to null as well. Background image. Okay, so we're setting it to null. We're destroying the texture, setting it to null, destroying the render. That should be good for that. I'll just run it again real quick. Okay. Now we have the background image and we're querying the texture for the rectangle. So let's make the window icon. So that's the window on if you're in a floating window manager, if you're in Windows or OS X or GNOME, KDE, XFC, things like that. You have an icon for whatever program you're actually running, and I'll show it to you right before the end of this video here, but we'll see it working as well. Now we're going to load this icon in the initialization part, and I'm going to name where the icon location is in the header file. So I'm going to put it here so it's easy to change if anybody wants to change it later. I'll call it window icon. And it's a string, and I'm going to use the, over here in images, I'm going to use the yellow. This is the yellow snowflake. I'm going to use that one. Okay, yellow PNG, we'll do that. And initialize. What we're going to do is we're going to actually load, not a texture this time, we're going to load a PNG to a surface because we need to use the surface to set the window icon. We set it with a surface. So we're going to be loading a surface. We're going to set the that icon, and then we're going to free the surface. So this is just image load. So we'll go image load, and we're going to use the pound define that we just set. So that is going to be window icon. Window icon. And what we need to do is we need to store it in a surface right here. So we'll go SDL. We'll call it icon surf. Okay, and this is a pointer. And now we need to do the same thing where we catch it to see if it has failed. So that's the icon surface, and our message should be loading icon surface, because this one's very specific. Error loading icon surface. The error is coming from the image module. Error loading icon surface. Yeah. Okay. Now, what we want to happen is if this surface has loaded, we want to set it as the window icon. If it has not, we want this error to happen. We also want to free it after we load it. So I'm actually going to switch this up here. And I'm going to say if the icon was good. And then I'm going to say else. Okay, and well, let's look at this right here. the SDL set window icon, it's going to take the window, pointer to the surface, right? SDL set window icon, is that what it is? Yeah, set window icon, okay. So in the good, if it did load, we're going to do SDL set window icon. And this one doesn't return a failure or not, so we can't check it. Set window icon. And we're going to set it to the surface that we created. And then we need to free this surface. Okay. And this is a local, we can also set this to null. So we can say icon surf equals null. And basically, if this fails, it's still null, and we just bail out. We don't need to clean it up. We don't need to set anything or anything. But if it succeeded, we set the icon, we free the surface, we set this surface back to null again. Okay, so this is setting the Windows icon. Let's compile it real quick and see if it does an error, and then we will I will actually show it working. Too few arguments. Oh, we need a window probably pointer. So let's just compile it, make sure it works. Okay. And now we don't see this icon that I've been talking about, so that's a problem. So let's go over to over here, and we'll just start up a new floating window manager session, something like that. And let's see, X, yeah, we'll just do that. Start up Plasma. Okay, so we're in Plasma now, and we can just use the same Alacrity terminal. And I'm not even going to compile it. We'll go into the same thing. It was already there. Make. I'm not going to clean it or anything. I'm just going to do run. Now I do warn you that this is kind of a this is a nested Windows session right here that I'm using, so it's going to complain. It's probably going to give me false positives or just some funny things about the sanity check for the for the for the memory checks, but don't worry about that. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and this is the icon, the snowflake icon that we loaded. That's yellow, and here it is down here. So that's what it will look like in KDE or Windows or OS X. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, but it'd probably be something like that. And here's the title that we set and everything else. And if we set it, say these are the, you can just ignore this stuff right here. It's I think it's because we're running in this funny session. But if we were to go over here and change it to in main, change it to white. Right? And we recompile it. And let's compile it without those. We'll compile it without the checks on the memory. Now we go back over here and run it. Now we have the white snowflake. Okay? So that's what it should look like there. And that's how you can change it. And it's still all good. So let's close this guy. So I'm going to change it back to yellow. Okay. So let's just cover what we talked about real quick. There was, from video one, there was that bug that in the, let's close this real quick so we can read. So in the main game loop, where we're checking the events, the default was spelled wrong, one of them with an E. Also, we changed in the makefile. we put a question mark in front of the source directory that allows us to set that in front of the make command. If we don't have it there and we set anything in front of the make command, it just ignores it. So this allows us to point to different source folders. Okay, that's good. And then we set the background by adding we added our texture and our rect, and then we populated it in a new place. We made this new load media where we loaded it and we queried the texture, and then back in the game we displayed the texture. We clean it up here. We clean it up and we're displaying it here. And in the initialization, we have loaded an icon surface, and if it was successful, we're setting it and we're freeing it and setting it to null. And if it failed, we are bailing out with our error code, and that is being held in, or not the error code, but the image that we're loading is being set here as a kind of a global pound define right here. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and join me in the next one. Thanks. Bye.